So there was a man named Colin, and God was saying that something that they did to set me up from this man named Colin's home the month that Cynthia Olvera was given custody of my son, when she brought my birth certificate, my son's birth certificate that she took out of my home and brought into somebody's courtroom, my biological child, and brought a certificate that you took from his birth record that I gave birth to this child, and she took my son's birth certificate from my home out of my file cabinet and his social security, and she took my son and went into these people's courtroom with the birth certificate and started behaving as if she was his mother and that she did not have to return him inside of the courtroom after she had already told me that she wanted to rape my baby and kill my baby because I shot Austin in the leg. And then she stole my baby's birth certificate and went into Tracy Gilbert's courtroom and just started lying about Austin, trying to make it seem like he was not abusing me, trying to make it seem like he didn't have charges, trying to make it seem like there were no 911 calls, trying to make it seem like Austin was not violent, and trying to make it seem like I was a danger to my son for protecting myself and my son from Austin. And he has since been in violent altercations with people on Cynthia's property since this incident where she went to lie to get custody of my son. And they're not trying to help me get on my feet. So the blood ritual about family, friends, the society, America trying to keep me outside and not help me get on my feet is because they're trying to do a blood ritual where they gave my son away to this woman, and they knew that I wanted my baby from her, and they knew that she threatened to molest him and rape him because I shot Austin. I shot him in the leg because he was abusing me and my son. He is white, and they took my son and they threatened to molest him and rape him and do all this wickedness to my baby boy, and then set it up and be like she was coming to get custody of him and keep him from me. And so I'm here in Texas, and God told me to come here and that they were setting me up from a man named Colin's house. So they released me on these charges, and God was saying that I was pregnant coming out of the jail. And the man, I'm gonna just tell you about Colin, and whatever they did to me from Colin's house, I'll just go into that because God said that it was so important that he would have to punish Colin for what has been done to me, because I went to Colin the month that they gave my baby to Cynthia Olvera in Jersey Village, and I met this man telling him that I was staying in a motel and that I needed help, and he said he would rent out a room to me in his home, and I was pregnant still with the baby that they had tortured me and left in my body in the jail, claiming they was gonna kill me and the baby, and then had taken my son, threatened to rape him, and then stole birth records, my son's birth certificate out of my home and his social, and went into Judge Tracy Gilbert courtroom and asked Judge Tracy Gilbert if she could keep my son and not return my baby boy to me, and had America, my family and friends, setting me up outside, all the organizations, women's shelters, everybody setting me up outside, police setting me up outside with a bag, with her claiming to retaliate, to molest my son, and then say I could not get my baby from her. So I went to a man named Colin's house. I had stayed in a motel in Conroe, Texas by myself after I had family tell me I could not live with them. Had men that supposedly was going to try to help me, trying to harm me, and didn't want to let me have a stable place for me and my son. And I went to a motel, spent my last, and told this man what my situation was, and I told him that I needed a place to stay, and he said he would rent me a room out, and he was trying to set me up in this apartment, and for these people, for Cynthia, and they have been trying to set me up from the time that I was released on the jail, from the time that I was incarcerated for the shooting. They were trying to set me up in my home while Austin was in prison. These people have been trying to harm me for the longest period of time and trying to use people that they affiliated with in order to help them get it done, and that's what they're continuing to try to do. And they're trying to use the court system and the litigation system to lie and take my child and molest him, lie, and just continue to do that. So Colin was a man that said that I could come inside of his home in Jersey Village, in Steeplechase or the Landis or somewhere around there, and I was trying to get on my feet and get my baby, and I was pregnant, and I was only a few months out of the jail, and my sister Shakina had turned her back and told me I had to leave her home. So that forced me to have to go with these men. I didn't know none of the shelters would not allow me in. They wouldn't give me medical care for my baby after being released from the jail. So I ended up going with this man that said he would rent me a room, and the man had me lied to me, had me come into the location and made me sleep in the room with him, and was making me to have sex with him inside of this room, and he was starving me inside of the home and trying to make me sick for these people, knowing that I was pregnant and that Tracy Gilbert had just gave my son away to Cynthia Olvera and said I couldn't get my baby back. They had set me up to be murdered from that moment up all the way up until the hearing and then after the hearing. And so I had went to my sister's house when I had got out. I went to a man named Keith. I have to start with everybody whose house I went to. When I got out of the jail, I called my sister Shakina and my dad Andrew and said, I'm being released. I need y'all to come help me. And they did not come to get me. And they were trying to say that they would not release me if somebody didn't come get me for my safety, because I shot Austin and they didn't want anybody to do anything to me. And my family did not show up. My sister Shakina Jones did not show up to come get me when I was released. And they were trying to say they would keep me if I did not have somebody to come and get me. I called my dad Andrew and said, call this man named Blackjack that they had coming up there from Montgomery County, Texas, that I met through a girl named